Hello and welcome to a brief tutorial on understanding acceptable use of Grammarly and other writing tools in your college classes, also known as "You told me to use Grammarly, so why am I in trouble?" The point of this presentation is to distinguish between the editorial suggestions that are provided by Grammarly versus the generative AI capabilities of Grammarly, and why one is acceptable whereas the other is not. Before we do that, I think it's helpful to understand what it is that we are seeing as instructors and what your fellow students are seeing in their classes in terms of things like discussion board posts and other more public versions of the writing that students are creating and sharing online. The thing that you have to remember anytime you post to a discussion board or even submit an assignment directly to your instructor is that there's always a human on the other end. And it's important to think about what it is that that other human being wants to read. And so I will ask you, which would you rather read out of these two? Both of these students were given the same assignment instructions. They were both given a list of poems to choose from, and they needed to read that poem and respond to it, both in terms of literary analysis, looking at quotes from the poem, etc., but also personal responses to it. Immediately, it's pretty clear that while one student is doing those things, the other one is not doing those things. If we look at the first example, the poem I decided to read, Cheryl Luna's Lowering Your Standards for Food Stamps, I expected this poem to be about learning what one could and could not have living using food stamps to eat. The poem was not about food stamps at all. The poem represents the feeling of being a cog in the machine of minimum wage and the loss of personal freedom that accompanies being forced to work constantly to survive. Versus, the poem I've Wasted My Life explores the theme of existential contemplation and the inevitable confrontation with mortality. Through vivid imagery and metaphors, the speaker reflects on the fragility of life and the relentless passage of time. So you might be telling yourself, well, obviously a professor would rather read the second one than the first one, but that would be incorrect. The first one, while certainly not perfect, and that's something that the Grammarly editorial tool could be used to improve in terms of spelling, grammar, punctuation, that kind of a thing, because there are errors in the first one. The second one, while technically perfect, lacks authenticity. It lacks personal response. And the diction, meaning word choice, by the second post, or the person who put up the second post, clearly indicates somebody who is relying on AI to rewrite their text or to generate it entirely. Whereas the first one is, again, more human, more authentic. So how did this happen? Let's take a look at what Grammarly offers in terms of editorial help versus generative AI in a discussion board assignment. So notice right away we've got different underlined parts. So this is what we call the old school Grammarly benefit, in that it's going to highlight certain things and make certain suggestions, which you can choose to use or not choose to use. The important word there is choose, though. So yellow ones are going to be premium suggestions, and if you're doing it with the free account, it's only going to give you so many, versus red, which is going to be, those are part of the free options. So if I hover over it, it's saying add a hyphen between best-selling. That would be a good suggestion to take, versus maybe down here where it's saying get rid of the word actually. I mean, I could do that or not do that. That would be a personal choice by me, the author of this post. But again, the word here is choice. With the premium suggestions, I can tell you right away, having used Grammarly a lot, it's probably going to tell me not to use contractions. Yep, it's telling me to change wouldn't to would not, because Grammarly doesn't like contractions. But it's okay if you use contractions in most classes. And if you're not allowed to, then yes, this would be a very helpful suggestion. But if you are, you probably would choose to use contractions because that's sort of a more natural, fluid writing choice for a lot of people. But again, the word here is choice. You would be making choices as the author of this post. Now, if we rewrite it with Grammarly, we would highlight the text, improve it. Notice it's made several choices on my behalf. First of all, it has turned this one paragraph into 4 paragraphs. but maybe I was only supposed to write one. It has also changed word choices, things like disproportionately large impact. The word disproportionately was not in the original post. We've got other choices made on my behalf as well. Words like flawed, choices about things like transitional words, all kinds of things being done to quote unquote improve the passage. But did it actually improve the passage? It certainly made it longer and made some fancier word choices on my behalf. But would this person necessarily get a better grade than the other one? Well, not if the other person did everything the assignment asked them to do. But again, I'm not making any choices with this. I'm just taking this and changing it out for what Grammarly has done for me by hitting insert. I have handed over control to AI. And this, friends, is where we draw the dividing line. Choices versus no choices. Control versus no control. Now, you could put it in there and you could make adjustments to it, but at the end of the day, most people are just going to take this and they're going to dump it in there without a lot of thought. And you're here to think. That is what college is for. This did not require any thought on my part to do. And this is the dividing line between acceptable Grammarly use and non-acceptable Grammarly use. Whether it's Grammarly, Chegg, WordTune, any other kind of generative AI that rewrites passages for you, that is unacceptable because we are here to hear from you and not from them. Thank you for your time.